So let's walk it back a bit. Firstly, we have been making steel primarily the same way since 1850, in which we're taking iron ore and metallurgical coal and combining those to eventually get to our liquid steel. Hearth Metals has developed and scaled and is continuing to scale a process in which we are reintroducing the flexibility into steelmaking, which the industry has lacked for almost 100 years. And so that flexibility comes in the form of being able to use any grade of iron ore, including waste oxides, being able to use natural gas or hydrogen instead of coal, and being able to do everything in a single step, which gives, again, more flexibility, reduced cost. So what we lead with is the fact that we have a more cost-effective solution to steelmaking that is more flexible and it's cleaner. So you don't have to trade one for the other, right? It's not for cost for CO2 emissions. It's all in one.
Right. And I mean, these are I don't use claims here in a derogatory way. These are big claims, and you know, I mean, obviously an industry that's been around for a very long time. And so anytime somebody's coming out saying we figured out a process that everybody else had missed,
which is why we stayed in stealth for so long.
Okay.
Right? This is why you hadn't heard of us, because there have been a lot of companies that come out with these new technologies and make claims. And they're making these claims based off of test results of kilograms production, or even just grams. The steel industry is making millions, billions of tons per year, right? Each mill makes millions of tons per year. Globally, we're making billions. And so proving things at scale is really important. And when I first founded the company, I spoke to the steel producers and incumbents, and I asked them, at what scale must you see this process working for you to truly believe our claims on economic viability, flexibility, et cetera? And time again, they all said a continuous 1 ton per day rate, right? And so that's what we did. We put our heads down and proved that out, proved out our process working on natural gas, proved it out working on low-grade ores, medium grades, pellets, fines. And then once we had all of this data and support for our claims, did we come out of stealth, just a few months ago.
And you guys are based in Houston?
Yeah, right outside of Houston in Conroe, Texas.
Okay. I grew up in Houston. I know Conroe.
Conroe for the win.
Mostly there because of energy and the industrial base and things like that?
In Houston/Conroe area, yeah. Mostly there because there's a ton of talent in the oil and gas sector. Houston knows how to build big things.
Yeah.
If you're starting an industrial company, I really believe you're doing it wrong if it's not in Houston. And as I said, so much talent in the oil and gas sector.
Okay. Well, okay. So let's try to learn.
We jumped around.
No. I mean, it's great. You set us up. Those were, when I was reading, I was fascinated because anytime you have an industry that's been around this long, to come and say, we figured something out is hard to do, and people will be skeptical. Mm-hmm. And then I'm at a disadvantage because you just came out of stealth. There's not a ton of information about you guys, but from everything I was reading, it looked like at least the original seed of this company, the idea was it is a discovery that you made. I mean, is that true? Is that what happened? Did that happen at MIT, or this was just after that how did you come up with this idea of a new process?
Yeah, it's really the culmination of all of my previous research, which wasn't necessarily in the steel industry. So the first startup was during my master's and based off my master's degree research, which was a thermal silicon molten metal battery, storing thermal energy though. And this was to be applied for power plants to enable them to leverage arbitrage with renewable electricity prices. So store electricity when it's cheap and then regenerate that electricity through their steam turbines. So that gave me the exposure to molten metal systems and really the difficulty in material compatibility at high temperatures. Which is honestly why I also got into material science for the PhD. So that was startup number one. And eventually, though, decided to continue on the PhD instead of stopping and just focusing on that company. So then for my PhD, I pivoted into more material science metallurgy. And my research was on leveraging aluminum for generation of hydrogen, actually. So studying a lot about how to leverage scrap aluminum specifically. So that gave me the eye into the metals industry. And then I was recruited to join a green hydrogen startup as their CEO and standing CTO. And there we were scaling industrial scale water electrolyzers that are precious metal free. And it's there where I asked myself, this is in 2020 when everyone had a hydrogen production company, everyone had a green hydrogen startup. Where would all this hydrogen go? And that's how I stumbled upon steel. As today, there is a novel technology in which steel is made from hydrogen. It's called hydrogen DRI process, but it's very expensive.
Okay.
And so that gave me a peek into the steel industry as that's a potential customer. And then I just fell in love. And if anyone reads about steel, you're crazy to not fall in love. It's literally all around us. It is the most magical material where you can add an element, change the microstructure, and now you can use it in a completely different way for a completely different application, right? Steel is obviously in all of our infrastructure, in our bridges. Steel is also, of course, in our cars, but steel is also in our everyday life items. And so it's the backbone to both industry and society, right? And since 1850, like I said, we've been making it the same way. So we continue to innovate on all of these sectors that build upon steel, such as today AI, right? How do you get data centers? You need steel to build those. And we've completely ignored the foundation, which is the steelmaking process.
And so you saw the steel industry still using coal, and I mean, is that what set you off first? Is like why does this look like it's still in the 1850s? Is that and
Yeah, because if you think about energy, right, the transitions of energy, society also started based off of coal, and in some countries is still based off of coal. But then we learn here are these other resources with lower cost. Eventually it got to natural gas. Why is steel still being made from metallurgical coal when there are these other resources that are more cost effective? And metallurgical coal is not any coal. It's expensive because it's higher grade.
That's what I was going to ask you. So they use this special type of coal for this process, which is it's more expensive.
Yes.
And okay, so it just has to be higher quality.
Yep. It's significantly more expensive.
Okay.
It's not even minor.
But like if I was sitting down to do this, I just, again, not to harp on this point, but I would have just been like, I'm sure this happens for a reason. Somebody, must have tried to get away from this. And then it would seem quite daunting to like think that there's some process lurking out there to be discovered. How did you even begin to approach it? You just sit down and think about it hard, or
just turned on this big brain? Yeah. No, I did a lot of research into what others were trying to develop, what research was out there. So that was on one end of the spectrum. On the other spectrum, I did a lot of discussions with actual steel incumbents. What are the challenges you're facing? What do you see ahead? What are the advantages to the resources that you have, and what are the disadvantages? And really looked at a combination of how we're making scrap steel, which today scrap steel is made by just tossing, steel from scrap is made by just tossing scrap steel into an electric arc furnace. An electric arc furnace is an electrified approach to melting, to heat transfer. And so the steel industry doesn't have a problem with heating things, right? We understand how to harness electric arcs. The problem is how we reduce the ore, meaning how do we react with the oxygen in iron ore to pull out that iron without pulling out the impurities that come in with the ore.
Okay.
Right? You want to separate them. And so just thinking about that framework led to what is now our technology at Hearth Metals, in which we are the first in the world to make steel in a single step. What does that mean? It means you're not only making your iron from ore in that step, but you're also tuning the carbon content of the steel, because steel is typically iron plus carbon. And we do that by harnessing electric arcs for heating. And that's actually where our company name is from, and I can explain that in a moment. And we harness, instead of solids like coal or coke, we harness gases as the reducing agent.
Okay.
By harnessing a gas, it means you can use natural gas. And natural gas in the US is so much cheaper than metallurgical coal, it's a no-brainer. Now, that wasn't always true, so it's not like, why wasn't this invented 100 years ago? It's really only in the last 15 to 20 years that the natural gas boom took off, right?
From fracking and
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay. So this opens up this opportunity to
Exactly.
rethink this.
Rethink it.